Hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan. Welcome back to another PAP Reports. It's Wednesday, June the 17th, 2020. Scarlett Jones, not her real name, has written a book detailing her life when she was a victim of child sexual predators in Shropshire. As a victim of a grooming gang, she said she almost gave up trying to report the abuse that she suffered after one of the police constables she reported to tried to proposition her himself. Scarlett said that every one of the 30 or so reports that she made to police were ignored, and even had one constable say, "You're very pretty, why don't you come round and see me next week?" Scarlett was 17 at the time of the perverted police proposition. She said, "I was basically a child begging for help. Of course, I never did go to his house, but it reiterated that was all men wanted me for, if even the police saw me as a slag." Now 40 years old and a mother of 5, Scarlett has had to live with the injustice for over 20 years and recounts in the book how she began walking the streets at a young age due to the sexual abuse she was getting at home. It was whilst wandering the streets that she fell victim to grooming, which led to repeated rape, beatings, including the beating from a woman who was paid by her abuser in order to force a miscarriage and who later sold her on to Pakistani men for sex. Since Scarlett's memoirs, Chief Superintendent Tom Harding for West Mercia Police said these are incredibly serious allegations that today would amount to a serious criminal offence. We're committed to ensuring survivors receive justice regardless of when the offence took place. However, does not seem to have made comment on whether the allegations are in fact being reinvestigated, making you wonder just how serious the police do take these claims. Metropolitan Police are trawling through tons of household waste at a local waste depot after crucial evidence into the case of the death of 2 sisters may have been thrown away. The bodies of the murdered women were found in Friant Country Park in Wembley on June the 7th after they were stabbed to death following one of the sisters' birthday celebrations with friends. Detective Chief Inspector Simon Harding, who is leading the murder hunt, said, "Inquiries continue at pace and an ongoing extensive search of what is a significant crime scene, including a pond, continues to yield evidence. My officers are also currently trawling through hundreds of thousands of tonnes of rubbish from a local refuse depot in search of items of relevance to the investigation, which we believe were accidentally cleared from the scene when mistaken for rubbish." DCI Harding said that the 2 sisters, 27-year-old Nicole Smallman and 46-year-old Bibba Henry, are believed with some certainty to have been killed by someone who was unknown to them. Asked if he was worried the killer might strike again, Detective Chief Inspector Simon Harding said, "We always have a fear of what might happen, but we are working around the clock. I understand how alarmed and concerned residents will be about the incident given the circumstances. I know the experienced investigation team are working around the clock to identify whoever is responsible as swiftly as possible and ensure they are brought to justice. We will leave no stone unturned." But didn't answer the question. The IoPC has said that they need to do more to build trust with young people and ethnic minorities. No, what you need to do is to build trust with everyone, because adult white folk don't trust you either. Sal Nassim, Regional Director for London, says that their own research shows strong evidence of minorities being treated differently. In that case, Sal Nassim, why have you allowed it in the first place? Or is it possibly that all of these organisations, including the police, are making these claims now to simply try and get the BAME community on side during the heightened tensions we've seen over the past weeks? I mean, you yourself are BAME. Why have you not done anything about it sooner if that was indeed the case? Nassim said on Radio 1 Newsbeat that out of 30,212 complaints last year, only 4% came from black people, 5% from Asian, and 1% of young people. He said, perhaps they don't feel confident in raising concerns, but the problem is, when we go to the police service to talk about it, they say, well, we don't get the complaints. Or perhaps the amount of BAME people needing to make a complaint was actually that small, and it is just that now people are clambering over themselves to prove they're not racist, and the fact that people are seeing this more BAME people are making complaints over issues that aren't actually criminal anyway. Again, let me be clear, I'm not suggesting for a moment that people are not discriminative towards others, but if the information we're being told about the disproportionate amount of BAME people being targeted by police is correct, but yet the information on how many are making complaints is correct, why has it been left till now to do anything about it? Last week, rapper Wretch32 shared a video of his 62-year-old father being tasered by police in April. London's Met Police said it didn't meet the criteria to pass it through to the IoPC, but Mr Nassim has taken a different view. That is something that I was personally involved in, and I used one of our new powers to make sure that the Met Police did refer this through to us, because for me, there was a really important point about public confidence, he said. In other words, if the focus of the entire community wasn't on the BLM movement or on just how racist we all are, then this would have been dealt with the same way as adult white folks' complaints are dealt with. I'm sick and tired of people treating everyone differently. Individuals have the luxury of being able to like or dislike whoever they want. That is the nature of being human, but organisations do not. And it worries me that with every one of these organisations worried about being branded racist, other people, i.e. people like me, are now going to get a bit of a raw deal in case the police or IoPC get called nasty words. Although Sal Nassim has denied the IoPC has been forced into this position after Wretch32 shared the video of his father being tasered went viral, of course. He said that we're an independent body from government and from police services, we take no sides. America has got a completely different system. They police by force and they don't have any model like us, strict and rigorous to hold the police to account, he said. But yet they are happy to sack police almost immediately when they see compelling evidence, whereas our strict and rigorous model allows them to continue working for the force, while the professional standards and IoPC spend months trying to figure out how to cover it up. He said, I grew up with racism and I was stopped and searched when younger and felt humiliated by it. After that, I've had really positive experiences with the police. My dad ran a shop and he used to get all sorts of bother and the police were great to us. So I've got that kind of balanced experience, he says. So what you're saying is all police are not racist. It's a bit of a different stance from the current narrative, isn't it? Again, I'm not trying to suggest that there is no discrimination. There clearly is. I do, however, think that much of it is now being blown completely out of proportion and that we all experience discrimination. It seems to me that unless you are umbrellaed under a protected characteristic, then any discrimination you do receive is largely ignored. 27-year-old Tarek Stanley is suing the Met Police over injuries he suffered in an alleged racist attack. Tarek Stanley said he was wrongfully detained outside his home in the Woolwich area of London during a pandemic lockdown after police approached him and detained and searched him for drugs. The incident happened on April 17th at around 7:30 p.m, while Tarek was sat in his car having a cigarette and watching YouTube outside his home. He said, I saw a police van pull up behind me. I thought nothing of this, but then I could see an officer approaching my car and other officers stood near the van. This officer came up to the driver's side window and asked me what I was doing. I explained that I lived here and pointed to my flat. He added, this officer said he smelled cannabis and said he wanted to search me in the car. I was shocked by this as the accusation came out of nowhere. I do not smoke cannabis and therefore there is no way the officer could have smelled this. He also pointed to my car, a BMW, and said it was a nice car to be owned by someone like me. Although I was shocked by this, I told the officer he could search me and the car. I had nothing to hide. So I got out and handed both my car keys and house keys to him. It was when I started to video record the incident with my phone that the officer tried to place handcuffs on my left wrist. He did this without warning or explanation. Now to me, this so far sounds like what most people experience, black and white. The good old I smell drugs line is standard because it requires no proof on behalf of the police and is constantly abused. Tarek said that another constable joined in the arrest and forced his forearm behind his back. He alleged that the two policemen snatched the phone off him to stop him filming the incident. Again, this is standard behaviour from the police and so far does not make this racist in any way. Tarek said the police were telling him to stop being aggressive, which again we see and hear in many police interactions where people start filming, being called aggressive and defensive just for trying to document the incident. Tarek claimed he was detained for more than 4 hours at Plumstead Police Station without medical attention, which doctors later told him had exacerbated his injuries. He said, "At the very least, I would like to see the main instigator sacked from the police. My only conclusion is that he saw a black man in this area and thought he was up to no good. It was a form of racial police profiling and I was the target. I've never been in trouble with the police before," he said, "in my whole life, but I want justice done and this kind of racial prejudice stamped out of the Met." So surely if he had never been in trouble before, then racism can't be that bad, can it? 27 years without any police interactions does not indicate that you are being stopped for racial purposes. Although let's be honest here, in many places there are gangs of people from particular backgrounds who are responsible for large portions of certain crimes, and so that would not mean that those would that not mean that those people are likely to be stopped more in those areas due to that fact? A Met spokesperson said officers had initially approached Stanley to enforce government guidelines around COVID-19, which I will say for balance seems way suspicious, as he was alone in a car and there was no need for them to be speaking to him about COVID regulations, in fairness. The spokesperson said Stanley was then informed he was to be detained for a drug search. He was arrested on suspicion of obstructing a drug search following a struggle with officers. A search was undertaken of both the man and the vehicle. Nothing was found. The man was taken into custody where he informed police that he believed he had suffered a wrist injury. He was then taken to hospital. Once back in custody, the man was released with no further action. The spokesperson confirmed a formal complaint had been received about the incident and a referral made to the IoPC. Now, I've got to say that if nothing was found, then he certainly shouldn't have been taken to a police station. But was it a racial thing or was it just a butthurt police thing? I mean, would my own arrest back in February 2019 for filming from a public space have been dealt with differently if I was black? I would say that I was discriminated against then because I was trying to stand up for my rights when I was arrested, handcuffed, detained, and I'd done nothing wrong. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll link to it up here in the card and in the description. Watch it and then try to imagine it that I was a black or BAME person, how different it would now be construed if that was the case, and then see how simply adding colour into the equation changes things entirely. West Midlands Police are patting themselves on the back after charging a total of 26 people with historical child sex offences. West Midlands Police have said the alleged offences date back to between 2008 and 2016 and involve several young people. It also appears that these are a group of suspects, and I strongly suspect this is a grooming gang, with my suspicions growing as the reports mentions nothing about whether the gang were of any particular background, and based on the current state of the country, I have a feeling we are going to see more of this absence of information in certain reports from the news in case they're branded as being racist. Those charged aged between 20 and 69 are set to appear at Birmingham Magistrates Court on June 22nd and 23rd. All but one of the accused are from areas of the West Midlands region, including Walsall, Wolverhampton and West Bromwich. Charges faced by members of this group involved numerous offences including rape, sexual assault of a child under the age of 13 and child cruelty. Ian Lindsay from Inverness, believed to have been the very first person to be jailed in Scotland under COVID regulations, has had his sentence increased. Lindsay was initially jailed for endangering the lives of police constables when arrested and given a 4-month sentence. Personally, I think 4 months is enough. Lindsay was initially jailed for endangering the lives of police constables when he was arrested and coughed at them and was given a 4-month sentence. Personally, I think 4 months for a cough is proportionate, although you might disagree. 48-year-old Lindsay admitted the offence at Inverness Sheriff Court last month, but last week an appeal judge heard that his sentence should be extended. He said that Lindsay had a lengthy criminal record and the Sheriff Matheson should have taken that into account before imposing the sentence. In a written judgment issued on Tuesday, the appeal judges agreed and increased the sentence to 10 months. 10 months for coughing on someone, when we see other people, including the police, get far less for far worse. I think 10 months is way beyond the realms of proportionate in this instance, although I do agree that coughing on people is disgusting and is an assault just as spitting. But 10 fucking months. I also have to point out that although coughing is disgusting and can pass on viruses and diseases, etc., this whole COVID thing allegedly can be passed on in multiple ways. Out of 827 Police Scotland constables who were tested for COVID, 163 were apparently positive. Are the police now going to go after those who they came in contact with for endangering the lives of the police constables? Or maybe the police themselves are going to be arrested if anyone that they came into contact with contracted coronavirus, as they may have passed it on to others. Can you see how ridiculous this entire narrative is? Do you remember this video? Can you imagine having to stand in front of a judge for farting for farting in a police officer's face? Yeah, that's what I said. Farting in a police officer's face. Well, this time a man in Vienna in Austria has been fined almost £550 for farting in the vicinity of Australian police. The city's police have defended the fine, saying it was far more than that. Of course, no one will be reported for accidentally letting one go once, Vienna Police Department said on Twitter. Responding after a photo of the charge sheet issued for violating public decency was shared on social media, the police department said the suspect had already behaved in a provocative and uncooperative manner when he was approached by police in the early hours of the 5th of June. He then rose from a park bench, looked at the officers, and apparently intentionally released a massive intestinal wind in the vicinity of the officers. So he farted. And as the suspect found to his own cost, members of the city's police force prefer not to be farted at. Absolutely incredible. This is the world we're living in, and it's only going to get worse. What next? Belching in a public place? Looking at someone in the wrong way? Madness. On Monday, I told you about Manchester Police allowing 2 raves to go ahead, which resulted in the death from overdose, 3 stabbings and a sexual assault. In Monday's report, I told you how Assistant Chief Constable Chris Sykes says the scale and size of the 2 incidents came on us really quickly, and admitted that there would have been no warning of a rave taking place in Oldham, but he defended the decision to carefully monitor the gatherings and said police needed to strike the right balance of proportionality and fairness with that overall coronavirus response. Well, it now appears that Greater Manchester Police did in fact have several hours warning in advance of the illegal rave where the man died, but police couldn't find the site until the event began due to the size of the park. In other words, they bullshitted. And even though they said there was around 4,000 people in attendance. Greater Manchester Police admitted that they had been tipped off about the rave taking place at the park, which covers almost 100 acres, at lunchtime on that day. But when police searched the site, they found no evidence of an event being set up. Chief Constable Ian Hopkins said the illegal gatherings were almost impossible to stop. MP Angela Rayner has urged police to bring the full force of the law onto those responsible after meeting with officials to discuss the rave at Daisy Nook. Greater Manchester Police said a member of the public reported to police at around midday on Saturday that the rave was planned at Daisy Nook later that day. Force intelligence officers investigated this claim and did not find any information that corroborated with the report, a force spokesman said, saying that they would have not had the resources to search the whole park anyway, based on one shred of intelligence. They have not one shred of intelligence. PC Lorna Thorley, based at Peterborough, has been fired after a misconduct hearing heard that she had used police databases for personal reasons on a number of occasions to find information on a number of individuals. Following a misconduct hearing, Chief Constable Nick Dean said that the police service and the public expect that all of its officers and staff to act and in a manner that does not bring discredit to the service or harm its reputation. The public expects that these standards are upheld. The conduct that PC Thorley has displayed falls way short of these standards. I have considered this case in full and find that PC Thorley's conduct amounts to gross misconduct. He added, this case centres on the misuse of computer systems and the access to personal data for the non-policing purposes. Turning first to the area of culpability, as the case has outlined, this has not been a one-off incident which could have been seen as a lapse of judgment. Unauthorised access was over a sustained number of years, access which PC Thorley knew was seriously wrong. It cannot be clearer within the policing environment that to access data for non-policing purposes is wrong, whatever that apparent motivation for doing so. The data itself contained personal information of a sensitive nature relating to a number of individuals. The fact that these individuals were family members matters not. Continual breaches of personal privacy were conducted. I have considered the submission that PC Thorley conducted the checks for safeguarding reasons. However, I am not satisfied on the balance of probabilities that the information obtained was acted upon in this regard. PC Thorley has a service record that outlines her work within a specialist area dealing with building confidence with vulnerable victims. Each breach was not a spontaneous act. With her background and experience, it should have been at the forefront of her mind that to access the information was in breach of standards expected. A man was shot by police in Shaw, West Swindon yesterday after police were called to reports of an armed robbery at the Rivermead Industrial Estate. The 50-year-old suspect was shot in the leg after police tried to halt the lorry that he had stolen. Footage of the aftermath of the shooting shows a police officer and a South West ambulance paramedic treating the man. In a video filmed by a resident, Andrew Shepherd, the 999 workers are holding up the man's leg with the police cutting the trousers with a pair of scissors. The IoPC has launched an investigation, which is apparently normal in these cases where a police officer has discharged their weapon. The Watchdog's investigator could be seen at the site of the shooting speaking to armed police. Boys, how are we going to cover this one up? Well, I don't know, you're the investigator, you tell us. A number of vehicles have or are in the process of being recovered, including a 57 plate Honda Civic recovered from outside the N&B Food warehouse after 10:30 p.m. Big thank you to all of the channel supporters, especially Patreon supporters. Your support is genuinely appreciated. And that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, please stay safe, look after each other, definitely film the police and other officials. Good night, all. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.